Vikings talk. It's Purple Daily on Score North and ScoreNorth.com. Purple Daily, presented by Surly Brewing Company.
Considering what he dealt with in Arizona, where they drafted someone in his position, he wanted to be traded. He came in and was a complete professional and balled the whole year, and they moved on from him. Anyway, that's a guy I think will make a big impact for the Vikings. And then Zadarius Smith is another one where, for variety of circumstances, he was out in Green Bay, mostly due to his high salary cap number. And when healthy, and I think he's in a really good place health-wise, he's a very, very good player. But it's not like the value's crazy anyway. I mean, those are deals that are really palatable. I think the Vikings got better, but didn't necessarily spend a ton to do it.
Ian Rappaport, NFL Network, talking about the Vikings additions. Welcome into Purple Access, sponsored by our friends at Surly Brewing and, of course, TCL TVs. If you're not enjoying your sports on TCL TVs, what are you doing? It's Zulgad, executive producer Declan Goff, and my partner in crime on Purple Access, Chip Scoggins, Star Tribune sports columnist. Chipper, let's start with this, because we talked quite a bit about additions and the direction of this team last week. Let's start with the draft. And as the draft draws closer, I think if I'm not mistaken, it's 3 weeks from today as we record this on Thursday. What is your feeling about the fact that I think the big assumption is that the Vikings are going to go defense? That being said, their big off-season free agent additions so far have obviously, for the most part, been on the defensive side of the ball. What do you think the odds are that they could actually surprise us and draft a player on offense in the first round?
I think low, right? Because there's only, if you're going to do that, it's going to be offensive line, right? I mean, where else are you going to do it?
There are rumblings about wide receivers that they might like to replace Thielen in 2023. I will say that.
Yeah, but you have so many pressing needs in your secondary that I think I would be, I'd say shocked if they don't take a corner with that first pick. And pretty much every mock you see has them doing that. I don't think Sauce Gardner will be around at 12, right? Stingley ran a very fast 40. Was it yesterday at the LSU Pro Day? So he might not be around. But I saw a mock. Was it CBS or someone that had the Vikings trading back with Pittsburgh for them to move up and take Willis, and then them still take is it McDuffie from Washington, the corner, and then you could accumulate a second round pick or whatever you would get for that. So I don't want them to fall into the Rick Spielman habit of trading back to accumulate picks. But if you can still land a corner in the first and accumulate, some capital that might help you next year, or to move up and get that quarterback that you're going to be looking for, I think it wouldn't be the worst idea.
I love that thought because I think that is. I don't think that the Vikings are going to take a quarterback in this draft. If they do, it'll just be like a project one because they decided Mon can't play, which I don't know about. But I love the thought of starting to go down the path of accumulating or getting just flat out another first round pick for 23.
Yeah,
because I am pretty convinced that as things currently are constructed, that the Vikings are going to probably try and take a quarterback as Kirk's replacement next April. And so if you had a world in which you filled a need with a good player, but traded back and got Pittsburgh's first, which, who knows, with Trubisky starting might be a halfway decent pick. I think that puts you in a very interesting spot for your competitive rebuild.
Yeah. And at some point they're going to have to address that, right? I mean, I don't think it'll be this year, but next year. And then you could have, take the Packers method and have the guy sit out a year and sit behind Cousins for his final year, and then presumably turn the reins over to him in his second year. And so they have to be formulating a plan of how they're going to address this. I mean, you basically have a 2-year bridge with Cousins. And so it's either this year or next year. And I just don't know that the quarterback pool is such that you'd want to do it this year. Everybody says it's going to be a lot deeper, a lot better next year. And there's going to be was it somebody wrote? I saw there 5 in the top 10 quarterbacks next year or something.
Yeah, I saw that. Yes.
So, so yeah, I mean, if you, by everything they've done, it says they're wanting to compete this year, and so you got to plug as many holes as you can on defense. And right now, the biggest one is that cornerback. So it just stands to reason that you're going to try with whether you stay at 12 or slide back, that you're still going to use that pick on a cornerback.
I am curious too, just as far as things go, and this is going to take time, but I'm curious at what point in time that we are going to see Kwesi, and it's going to happen, go in a different direction than Rick did, right? Because like so far, it's been very Rick-like,
Yeah.
It's been very. I think it's fair to say what we grew used to from Spielman. So at some point, we're definitely going to see a deviation, a change, and I mean, it could be the draft, it could be, I don't know, next year, but.
Yeah.
There's got to be a difference here that we start to see between how Rick Spielman and Kwesi Adolfo-Mensah did business and do business.
Well, particularly when you look at like the offensive line additions, it's been, guys that are not the high profile, kind of that second or third wave veterans who have some experience, but I don't know, you'd just say, okay, this guy's a slam dunk starter right now. So it's been a lot like what we've seen in the past, and surprisingly, but yeah, I mean, we may see it in this draft where I'm curious to see how he handles the draft in terms of staying put, moving up, moving back, because we're so conditioned to, we got to have 10 picks, we got to have 12 picks,
yes.
We got to have the largest
15 2 years ago. It's a record.
I mean, it just, and I think that was part of one of the things that drove Zimmer crazy is like, I don't want 20 rookies. I want the best player we could get, So I think by the end that kind of drove him crazy. And so it'll be interesting to see kind of what philosophy they take. And, that 12 pick, it might be valuable to a team that's wanting to trade up. And if it's the Steelers wanting to trade up and get Willis. So we'll see if they stay there or if they can get some pretty good draft capital out of that spot.
Hey, how surprised are you going to be? Because I've seen this a bit more. If Kenny Pickett goes to top 10, we did a mock today on Purple Daily that had Carolina taking him at 6. That one would really, I mean, we joke about the hands thing, Chip.
Yeah.
That's a big deal. Like the hands thing is a real thing.
Yeah, I mean, the fumbles and yeah. But you know what, Judd? I was just looking at some mocks earlier today, and I've seen him up there. And so, desperation, man.
I know. And I think, look, I think a quarterback will go top 10, at least one for sure.
Yeah.
I think I would rather, just from what we've heard from people, I think I would prefer to cast my lot with Willis than Pickett.
Yeah.
But Carolina, they're weird, and I don't think they're super well run right now. I think they're okay, but not super well run.
Yeah, and they may be just be in that desperation mode where some of these measurables and knocks don't alarm them because you're right, they're doing some weird things. Willis, his athleticism and just the arm, all that intrigues you.
Yeah,
but if I'm in the Vikings and you have Cousins, you have time. Not a lot of time, but you have time. And so I wouldn't force it.
Yes.
I just think there's going to be the pool is going to be a lot bigger to choose from next year.
Absolutely.
So I think I would figure out how I'm going to get the ammunition if this season goes as the way they think it's going to go, and you're going to be competitive where you're not going to be in the top 10 in their mind. And so how are you going to get up and be able to select one of those guys next year?
Mm-hmm.
Because you're going to have to be in the top 10.
Yes. The one thing I am not going to do, especially in this draft, the Vikings, once they did the extension with Kirk, you're not going to take a quarterback, one, because the class is not great, but two, contractually, right? Like you would literally be burning 2 years off, so that would give you 2 years of the rookie contract. And then if it's a first round pick, the 5th year option, which is not cheap, but it's still a good deal. But once you sign Kirk, I think your entire mission became, and I have zero problem here now, is exploiting or taking advantage, I should say, that's a better term, of the 2023 first round class. And then you burn a year, but that's a lot more palatable to me than 2 years, which is silly.
And how do you get up into that? Let's assume that they're a fringe playoff team again, which they should. I mean, you look at their talent. I mean, I don't think that's a reach, or even in the playoffs. How are you going to get up into that top 10?
2 first round picks right there.
Yeah.
That's how you're going to do it, right? Like if the Vikings and Pittsburgh are both good teams, not great, but good. 1 draft pick is fine. 2 get you up there.
Yeah.
Right?
And you know what? It has to. And guess what? You got to do it.
No question.
I mean, there's no, it's a different scenario, but you look at the Rams and they said, we'll forfeit those picks to try to go for it. Well, this is your chance to try to find your franchise guy. And so you can't be stingy when it comes to what you're going to have to give up.
Well, and that's where O'Connell especially has to know what he wants, has to know, like that's one where if you trade back with Pittsburgh in 3 weeks and you've got and you get their 2023 first round
23
pick. Yeah, and you trade up to get into the top 10 by packaging that pick and your pick in 23. You have to be right.
Yeah,
like if you're not right, you're in big trouble.
Well,
Huge trouble. Trubisky trouble, right? But if you're right, you've solved a problem that we've talked about, Chipper.
Yeah.
This team hasn't solved that conundrum in
decades,
forever.
Yeah,
forever.
No.
But yes, that's how you get up there. I agree.
And that's exactly why you hired Kevin O'Connell. Is presuming under the presumption that he's going to be able to solve that major question mark that's hung over this organization for years. So, I mean, it's, I assume this is part of their we're so focused on this year and what they're putting together now, but I assume it in their meetings, it's like, this is topic number A is like, okay, however this season goes, we've got to figure out how to get that guy next year and whatever it's going to take. And so, but yeah, I mean, for this year, I think you go defense, interior line, round 2, right? I mean,
interior line, round 1, possibly. I agree with your cornerback point. It's just hard to predict because we know nothing about these guys.
Yeah.
And I guess that depends too, how comfortable you are currently with your interior line. But I guess the kid from Georgia, the big defensive tackle from Georgia, is just an absolute stud.
Have you seen him?
Momentum. I've seen him, yes, but but I mean that could be intriguing.
He's Andre the Giant. He is huge. I mean,
he is 3'4", right, Chipper?
Yeah, but I mean, you could say the first step is, and maybe Kwesi kind of hinted. I think you asked me about this a couple weeks ago when we were talking about the defensive line, and he's saying we do things that help our defense, our cornerbacks. And so maybe he's like, you know what, let's beef up this defensive line and be as great as we can. But to me, if I'm ranking positions in the NFL in terms of importance, I go quarterback 1, rush in, defense in 2, cornerback 3. I just, I just think there's such a premium on getting those guys. And if you got a shot to get one, that high up in the first round, I think you take it.
So Chip Scoggins, if you were to rank, let's say something super important, let's say beers, where would you rank Surly and Surly Furious IPA?
1, 1A, 2, 3. You keep going down.
Let's say the can comes and says, okay, that's great, but I want a complete no trade clause. What would you say?
I throw in no trade. Any kind of signing bonus it wants, it gets.
Fully guaranteed deal, right?
Fully guaranteed. He gets the Cousins fully guaranteed.
Yeah.
Because this is a bleeping superstar right here. That's why. Right. And Chip Scoggins, let me tell you about an exciting opportunity that, heck, you have, and everybody who watches Purple Access, Purple Daily, Mackie and Judd has. That is draft night, April 28th. the first round only. We are going to be at the Surly Brew Hall. That's right. It's going to be Judd. It's going to be Phil. It's going to be Dex. And doors open at 3. Draft party starts at 6. And we are going to be doing our show live from Surly Brew Hall. We're going to have a mic, a camera. We want you to join us. So it's not going to be us talking at you. It's going to be us interacting, and a TCL TV will be given away. And we are also, and this might intrigue Chip Scoggins, for one night only in the brew hall on tap, a special beer being brewed for the event called Before I Die. Because damn it, everybody wants to see the Vikings win a Super Bowl before we die. So we are having, Surly is kind enough. They are brewing Before I Die beer. That is April 28th, draft night. Doors at 3. Event begins at 6 and goes until the first round is complete. It's going to be a grand old time. And I'm going to tell you right now, Chipper, I think I'll be enjoying a few of those Before I Die beverages.
So you're telling me there's 3 hours of drinking before you go on the air?
While we're on the air.
For other people, I probably won't imbibe until we actually start, but I'm excited to try this beer. Deck on
He's lying.
I might come by just to try it.
You know what? It's free as well, Chip.
Free?
Yeah. Well, the beer's not free. The beer's not free. Entrance is free. There's no admission charged. You can come watch us. You can come see this handsome face for free.
I'm going to come. I'm going to be there.
I loved that. And you know what? We'll put you on too.
Yeah.
Exactly right. Hey, as far as the draft goes too, the strategy, okay? Let's talk about that. Because you're right. Like, there were some things to which Rick Spielman became extremely, extremely predictable. And I think drove people crazy, and I totally get that. That was bailing backwards, getting multiple picks, but and when you trade back occasionally, absolutely fine. But when you do it consistently, it's like you're basically saying the best player on our board, forget him. I'm going to bail back and get more picks, and then I'm smarter. Just to be clear here, and I'd be curious to get your thoughts on this. When it comes to what the Vikings do now with Kwesi, trading back doesn't bother me, or trading in draft if it's done with a sound strategy. Yeah. So, like, what bothered me was the eventual, I'm just accumulating picks. What I don't mind is, like, if he trades back with Pittsburgh to 20 and gets a first round pick and then trades up in 23, I have no problem with those trades. It's what Rick began to do, which was always just try and accumulate picks, that started to drive me nuts.
Yeah, it became part of his persona, Trader Rick. And just I don't say it was quantity over quality, but he fell so in love with quantity, knowing that, the draft, particularly as you get later on, is a crapshoot, and there's no guarantee. So he, I don't know how many times I had him hear him say, the more swings that you get, the better chance you're going to have. Okay, I'll buy that a little, but the players go in order for a reason, because you think that they're better, right? And so I would rather have I would rather every once in a while just say, you know what, we're going to stay right here and take the best player on our board and not try to get 2 for the price of 1. That may not be, none of them might pan out. So you're right. If they go into this and say, you know what, let's trade back because this is going to give us ammunition to go up next year, we need a quarterback, that's totally sound. I mean, that's you should be doing that.
Correct.
But if it's just, oh my gosh, let's get 15 picks and hope 10 of them work out, well, that's not a great strategy, I don't think. I mean, that's just, it just became, it felt like a lot of it was unnecessary,
It felt like his ego took over.
Because he could do it. And it's like I said, this was his persona. This is what Trader Rick does, and so.
Do you think he called himself Trader Rick around the house?
He wakes up on draft day. All right, Trader Rick, let's go.
Kids, call me Trader Rick.
Hey, look. Dad. Yeah, Trader Rick.
Trader Rick.
So yeah. So that's why I'm curious to kind of see what Kwesi's his whole philosophy is, and I don't know if we'll get it out of 1 year, but you're right. Have make it make sense and not leave us all scratching our heads like, what are they doing this for?
Right.
Because it just became, I mean, draft day draft weekend became maddening with the Vikings because you knew there was going to be 35 picks or trades, and it's hard to keep it all straight and in order what they were even trying to accomplish.
Well, and the 15 picks here. So here's the problem too that I think Rick fell into a definite trap, and it seems simple, but I think it's true. When you have 15 picks in a 7-round draft, which is a record for that size of draft, you ordinarily in the Monday grades get praised, right?
Yeah.
Like 15 picks. Look at all these players. Look at all this talent. And my response is, yeah, but who really cares? Like you want to, just once I thought, go up in the top 10.
Go the other way.
Go up in the top 10. Just throw caution to the wind here. And in retrospect, I would love to know, and we didn't really know Rick this well or that well at this point. I would love to go back to the Jared Allen trade, which was a Childress driven thing. Yeah. Because he had ultimately final say. But wouldn't you love to know if Rick fought that or not? Because that had to kill him to forfeit multiple picks.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean,
but it was a great trade.
But it was a great trade and it worked out. Yeah. I mean, it's a totally different philosophy than what we've seen from him. But that's, you see a need, you see a player that's available, and it's going to cost you, and it's going to, there's going to be, it's just like any trade, fans will be like, oh, we have to give up that guy. It's like, well, you got to give something to get something. I mean, it's not free.
We don't like that here.
No.
Dex will tell you both ways. We don't like that here.
We want the great trade and keep all the prospects. It's like, well, it doesn't work that way.
Right.
So, and you know what? They're going to be in that boat next year. I mean, we talked about it. They just are. I mean, because it's to get that quarterback, unless they just completely bomb this year, which I don't think they will. They're going to have to give up a lot to get that quarterback.
And that's actually what makes the conversation about the logical trade with Pittsburgh intriguing to me, Chipper, is that is 2 franchises. So like if the Vikings have their own first round pick and Pittsburgh's for 23, those are 2 franchises that almost never bomb.
So Judd, let's say Pittsburgh's at 20. Is that right?
20.
Where are they at?
Correct. 20.
Will they have to give up their first to get to that 12?
Yeah.
I mean, you'll take that. Okay.
Yes.
It wouldn't be a second.
No, I think if you look at how trades are trending right now, it would be their first.
Because
a swap of first.
That's what you're getting. Because you're getting you're doing it, getting your franchise guy in theory.
So. Well, right. Well, and if you can find a second team that is in on, let's say it's
on Willis,
you just say, hey, we're talking to so-and-so right now.
Yeah. Yeah. You
just need 2
You hold the leverage there. Yeah. You need someone else that's, you need to figure out who else is in love with him. So yeah, I mean, that's where he needs to be shrewd on draft day, but also, if you trade back to 20, you still should be able to find a good corner, I think.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
I don't know how many they project to go in the first round, but that guy, you still should be able to get a guy that you could plug in as a starter on day one, I would think, when you look at who they have right now.
Here's the interesting point about that discussion. Cam Dantzler might be fine. Like he might be good. Like Zimmer deactivated him for week 1. And look, I know I'm sure that there were maturity things there.
Yeah.
And who I don't know if he didn't come into camp in great shape. But he definitely was in the doghouse to start the season. That being said, if you look at how he trended once he started to play more, he was actually okay. So like Patrick Peterson and Dantzler aren't an automatic train wreck. And if the guy that they got from the Packers to play the nickel is okay. Yeah. Now you do need depth, and I am not saying that you shouldn't take a corner in the first round, but I do think that when it comes to the last 2 draft classes, there remain some real questions about what might be there.
Yeah,
and
I mean,
Dantzler's included.
Yeah, I think we tend to look at the mistakes and the Detroit game with Dantzler, and things like that. And that's where you throw your hands up and you wonder how good he is.
Right.
He made plays though. I mean, I don't want to sit here and say he didn't make plays and had some bright moments because he did. But I think it's one, you always want to look to upgrade, and two, they absolutely need depth. You know, they need
no question.
Or guys, the slot from Green Bay, how good is he? I don't know.
Right.
That's another one that
he graded out okay.
Yeah, it's to be determined, right? I mean, I don't
Right.
think you know what you're going to get good, bad, or indifferent yet.
I will say this, and because of the fact that the Vikings clearly feel that they're super competitive, they probably don't agree. I will say that I would go with, especially on the defensive side, the best player at that pick. So, like, if it comes down to the best, like, nose tackle or corner, right now, I'm personally probably going nose tackle, defensive tackle, but they might say what you've said, which is we need depth and we've got to draft a corner.
I guess for me it'd be how much is there a gap, right? If you have a nose tackle that's so
the Georgia
far,
kid, like,
yeah, is he in your evaluation? Is he how he would fit in your defense?
Right.
Is he so far ahead or above, like the top corner that you have or the corner that's available? Well, then you probably do. But if they're pretty similar, I think you go, hey, cornerback. You know, you got to. That's such a need.
I do love big men, though. I love the big fat guys.
He is big. He is big, and he can move too. I mean,
those guys are freaks, man. They're hard to find.
I watched a lot of Georgia this year. He is enormous, and just he just disrupts everything.
See, you can't. I mean, that's intriguing to me.
Yeah,
that's intriguing. As a guy who's watched Garrett Bradbury for 3 years now get tossed aside like a rag doll, it would be very intriguing if the Vikings had a counterpunch to that with their own guy that could toss a few centers aside like a rag doll.
Well, and we've seen how disruptive that is with Cousins when teams have that guy in the middle, it just collapses everything right off at the snap. I mean, it's it can wreck the whole thing. It can wreck the whole
breaks down.
Yeah,
immediately too, because the pressure's up the gap. It's not from the edge.
Yeah.
I would say that one of the biggest changes since we started to cover the Vikings together that I've seen is the fact that defensive tackles used to disrupt, but they really didn't get a huge push. Now there's a lot of them that get a huge push. I think that's one of the biggest changes, because the quarterback, if you get that immediate push, is in huge trouble, and it doesn't take time.
Well, and that's the thing. Go back to when we were on the beat, Pat Williams.
Yep.
You weren't going to run on him, but he didn't. I mean, it wasn't like he was in the backfield all the time. I mean,
Kevin was a freak.
Kevin was,
but Pat was not.
Rusher, but Pat was you weren't going to run on. You couldn't run on him. But you're seeing more and more of those guys that do a both now. That are really good against the run, but also can collapse the pocket and create pressure that way. So if you can find him, I mean, it's it's definitely, because then if you can get the pressure coming up the middle or sending Daniel Hunter on the outside, or it's pretty good.
Can't pass the ball on the cornerbacks from your back, can you, Chip Scoggins?
That is right.
When you're laying on the turf, you can't pass the ball, can you? I'm just saying. The more I think about it.
Okay, you saw me. Defensive line, go get him. Go get him.
Big guy. Do that. All right, don't forget, April 28th, first round, Surly Brew Hall. Doors at 3. We start at 6. Before I Die beer, one night only. I want you to hold this promise, and I want to see Chip Scoggins there.
I am coming. I am going to try that beer for sure.
I love it. All right, we're done. Talk to you next week.
See you, man.